a business owner, you have multiple hats. So you have the marketing, you have the sales, you have the accounting, you have I'm forgetting some, you have the the mindset hat, you are the leader. And the part that we don't hear often about is that you are also the researcher. And why does that matter? It's because it really informs and validate and anchor everything that you market and sell. And so I want to bring that to you today. So this live video is for you to ask anything. So as I wait for your questions, so you put them in the comments, I'm going to share with you something I not found out because I've been creating this for years, but I started to become my own researcher through the people who come to my ecosystem, the people who are my clients, the people who were my clients, people who are prospect, people who are just curious person asking me questions. And I set up processes so that I can actually assess everything from a perspective of really understanding what is the underlying motivation for a person that comes into my ecosystem. And as I'm discussing this, I want you to picture this for your own business. So, because we can talk about what we think our clients want, our prospects want, how they move through our ecosystem until you actually collect all the data year after year. And I started to do this through literally basic assessments, surveys, that happen always at the same time in my ecosystem, so that today, actually, I've been working on this for 48 hours. I'm like, okay, Angelique, you have at least five years of data. Let's check, if what you say is true. So, of course, I use many tools to do this, but the key is to have the data over years, right? So I want you to think, do I have information about my actual clients? Do I have information about my actual prospect? And where do I keep that in my ecosystem? Do I capture it? Do I capture it always the same way? So that you can get to a point where you can have actual data about knowing who your ideal clients is, how they breathe, how they think. So I want to share with you that for me, my word is visible, right? Visibility. That's the word you hear all the time. Remember, you can ask me any questions, okay? Ask me anything is the name of the thing, and I'll go back to your question. So visibility, and you hear me say as well. And I want to mirror this for yourself, for your own business, right? I always say, visibility, it comes at the pace of inner visibility, of inner peace, inner safety. So as I went through all those interviews that I've done with the woman who comes to my ecosystem, whether they come to a workshop or a full year or just a prospect, they don't come in, they're just having conversation. The thread is this. So I discovered that the way they say it and the way that I can diagnose this, it's not a visibility thing. And when I read it, when I did the cross-examination, it came to a point that the women we work with at Social Media Love are really the women who are looking for self-recognition. And this blew my mind. Although when you look at it, it makes sense, right? But so I went through different interviews, and I want to share, for example, some quotes. For example, you would hear, I would second guess myself, make a decision, and then think, well, maybe that's not right. Who's recognizing themselves there? Another one is, I've been holding my cards to my chest. So visibility, social media feels so heavy when you hold your card to your chest. Another one is, my face wasn't there, but it wasn't me. I didn't actually know who me was. That's another piece, self-recognition, and this is funny because as I'm reaching out to some of you for this Who the F I Am authority bundle. Self-recognition is being able to recognize yourself. and speak through your own self, which is the key to authenticity, right? So another one that I got is I was deeply resistant to those conversations because when you work at with Social Media Love, we help you, having sales conversation, nurturing conversation so that you can have conversation with clients, potential clients, right? It takes conversation. And that specific person says, I was deeply resistant to this conversation and I didn't even know it. So you say you want to sell, you say you want to, have sales calls, sales conversation, or pre-qualification call, whatever you call it, but maybe you resent it, right? In the name of not knowing who you are. So this is really, it's really hard to be authentically you, right, on social media when you actually don't even know who you are and you don't even self-recognize that in you because you've been following the templates, you've been doing the thing you're supposed to do on social media. So, and then you do, and then when you stop, it almost feels a little scary, right? What if there is no more template, there is no more you have to do this or that, there is you and those tools? What's left? What's left? Those clients, some of them who share this in those different, assessment that we do, those same clients are the ones who increase their revenue by 100% or by 40% or by $10,000. The recognition, the self-recognition. So I could not tell you that straight in the face just by thinking about it or by, looking to my files. It's literally deep research that I've done in the last few years. So that's why I wanted to come here, because literally that research that I've done, 26 pages, right? And I could go on and on and on. So my question to you is, how much do you document what's happening in your business, from a relationship with your clients, from a relationship to your prospect, from all the people who go through your lead magnets, all the people who go through your workshop, all the people who go through your even in-person event? How do you capture, measure, track this in a way that is always the same, so that on June summer night 2026 you said, okay, I have enough information and I'm gonna make it an official, deep research about who are the people at Social Media Love, even the ones who haven't bought yet. There is a pattern always that now this document confirms. So it doesn't have to be many assessments, but it has to be always the same and always at the same time in the process that people come to you. So I want to share that with you. If you have any question, I'm just going to check. Let me know, okay? What else did I learn through my discovery? So the fact that, self-recognition is the thing. Also, another thing that I discovered and pinpoint is that there is almost like a PTSD reaction among entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, and the way we are fed templates. Because there is so much fear around selling, around approaching people, like the imposter syndrome stuff, that templates seems to be, kind of the mega barrier for a woman entrepreneur to get to the other side of making selling and having sales conversation like natural. So that's another thing that I've discovered. So you hate the template, you love the template, and just that makes your nervous system, just saying the word template, and your nervous system, you don't even realize it, is constricted, right? So what else I want to share with you? Yeah, someone is, in all the data point that I collected, a lot of the women are saying that they didn't feel safe to have a voice. So we're talking about business, right? But I know that it has nothing to do with business. I just want to bring that information to you because enough of this. And it makes me, excited even more. Uh, another trait or pattern that comes back through this, and we're talking about sales and marketing. It's a pattern that I've been doing so much for others for so many years that when it comes to selling and marketing, then your voice is cut because you don't know what it is to speak in your own name for your own interest in your own dimension. So that's food for thoughts. Of course, I could talk more about it. I just wanted to share that with you and encourage you to start thinking, if you don't have any processes around, tracking data about how people come to you, in what state they are when they come to you, and then when they leave you. So one of the assessment that we do is when you come in and you become a client, there is an assessment, of course, because I am an online visibility strategist. I will assess your marketing process, your sales process, and what do you believe about marketing, about sales, and about sharing your voice. So I have an assessment that I decided to make public. If that's something that is of interest, 5 minutes, and it will help you stop and take a deep breath. And I used to be a person who hated assessment because I was always disappointed. But the point of an assessment is to see where things leak, right? So if you want the assessment, I think I put the link around the video. I want you to, before you open it, that you take a few deep breaths in and be grateful for your courage and your openness to observe, right, without judgment, where you are at in those different categories. It takes 5 minutes. And then from that, instead of seeing that as a pointing finger at you, towards you, it is, oh, okay, I'm surprised at this section. I kind of got it all. And then this is like, I just got that amount of check box in this section. Interesting. I would have never guessed that my sales system was leaking or my visibility system was leaking. So I'm giving it to you as a kind of a way to assess where you are in your own process. And that's going to help you actually also to see if you have a clear path for someone who stumbled upon a post of you, a talking head video, right? And then what is the journey from that to buying from you, right? And so that assessment goes through exactly those steps so that you know, okay, where do I need to stitch the bridge or build the bridge, right? If you have any question, you ask them there, okay? So the assessment is available to you. You can feed it up. And if you want that we meet after, you and I, to go through it and have a conversation, you'll see there is an option for this. But if you just want to have it in your little corner, you just do it in your little corner. The other thing that I studied in my study is that there is an identity fracture that is a challenge for most women entrepreneurs. And one of the things that is actually happening when you start sharing more of your message, more of what you do, why you do it, what you stand for, what you believe in, is that you start to hear yourself. Most women have been kind of not well, some of them muzzled, but you've been like busy. Oop. For your whole life, taking care of family, taking care, maybe a lot of you were in the corporate world before you kind of resign from the corporate world to open your own business. Maybe some of you are taking care of, parents. So the voice you were using was always in the name of someone else, your ex-employers, your kids, your whatever you're doing, your community. So when you start really being the spokesperson for your business, you start literally physically hearing your own voice. And that voice has so much power. So it can either make you freeze because it's so powerful, or it can make you kind of shape the way you want to talk every day to your audience. The other thing I want to share is that you may also have tried many times hiring agencies or how do you call those? VAs or people who do some work for you. I want some marketing done. When I hear this is carrying me. Marketing is not just a thing, it's a machine, right? So maybe you've hired people and coaches, content creators, all the things, and what came back sounded everything but you. And then that was one more thing for your nervous system to retract, so that's why maybe you don't want even more help, right? You know what you have to say, but what you are looking for is someone who can hear you, which is different, right? That's another thing. Another piece that I'd like to share in terms of daily friction, just to kind of tell you that you're normal, is so many of us, and I don't want to say us because all the investment I've done were good investment. It's also a mindset. If you invested in something and then you're not happy, most of the time, it's your experience of it. It's how you involve yourself in it. I personally never had any bad experience of hiring, whether it's $1,000 thing or a $30,000 thing. Whatever I got was what I was, putting in. But there is a lot of people, business owners, who talk about having been burned by investing, in so many things. So this is what we call the investment scar. And then when it's time to get help, when you're in your next level, this is part of the resistance that you may feel. And it may have even an impact on the way you show up online, because I'm going to do it myself. And that there is a desire inside of you that you want some help. But at the same time, that there is no way I'm going to get help because I'm done with this. I'm capable by myself. So anything that is kind of a money objection, a money resistance in investing in yourself, it's really not about the money itself. It's your trust have been limited, right? Truncated, if you want. So it's just fear speaking. What if it does it again, right? And then you start to push yourself in a corner and do the things by yourself, because that's how it works better. So every previous investment that you've done makes you feel more cautious. And that is kind of, believe it or not, but that resentment towards yourself is palpable online. So the other thing that I want to share is that a lot of you, when I go through all the interviews, there is that thing that we call the plateau. And what I know after 51 years on Earth is that when we say we plateau, is usually that we are at the edge of a breakthrough. But when you don't know that, right? So what happens is that when we stay attached to this story that you are plateauing, then we stay attached to the old way of doing things, old patterns, old way of thinking, old way of, posting, old ways of reaching out. And so what's happening is that there is no more action. It's just a repeat, kind of a, how do you call those? Repeat like this, right? And then it becomes internal, and then you don't even see what else is possible. That's another thing. So another piece that is really showing up in the research I've done in my business is the personal challenges. When there is a personal challenge that is not solved and that is suck it up and then run the business, then there is a disconnect that feels very heavy for the business owner, especially when it's time to show up online, and most of the time not showing up online or showing up in a very kind of operational way. And it feels like lonely. So there is a relationship fatigue that happens from the personal stuff. And so when we know that, selling is social, especially if you use social media, right? So that's kind of what I see a lot. A lot of women come to us and there is kind of a crisis in their personal life, something that is not solved. And that's actually, when I look at me in my biggest investment, I wanted to solve my business stuff, when in fact it was my personal stuff that needed a little love, right? I see it often and my research confirms it. So when you ask a woman what she desires, and a lot of women tell me this, they don't lead with revenue in their answer. And I'm like, come on, we're in business, revenue, right? But they lead with, they want calm and they want peace. I'm like, what about money? And then they bring me back to, I know I'll have money when I feel peace. So the thing is, in my world, we don't do conditional circumstances impact what you feel every day. So we kind of realign that piece. But I'm just sharing you the threads are coming through my research in the last 5 years. Because you might recognize yourself, because you're a woman entrepreneur. You are a woman entrepreneur who, I'm working more and more with women entrepreneurs who are at the 10K month consistently, or want to get there or slightly past there. We have even bigger businesses who are in a much more seasoned phase. So this is something that might kind of speak to you. In terms of, I was doing some, compiling all the research around also how a woman entrepreneur identify her desire in terms of business owner. And something like, I want to say what I want to say, and that's kind of the desire behind becoming visible. And finally, self-recognize yourself and who the F you are, and say it with no explanation. So that's one way that in my research of the last 3 to 5 years that it shows up when women come to me and talk to me about, I need help with my business, but what I need is actually that you hear me, and also that I want to say whatever I want to say at this season of my life. It shows up also in the pricing. That's the price. No more noodling. That's the price. If they don't like it, too bad. That's a price. So you see the type of leadership and identity desire that is coming through entrepreneurship. So the other thing is self-trust, and that goes along with self-recognition, right? Is one of the main words that is used in all those assessments that we do. And connecting to that deeper knowing that the decision you make in your business is actually led by your inner knowing, and it maps out with the tracking as well on the expert sheet, but it's led from the inner knowing first. So that's another cool one, right? Multiple women entrepreneurs say this, that when they start, when they come into the world of, the identity work that it takes to become a female entrepreneur who speaks her voice, who generate the revenue she desired to generate, there is a change around fear, the connection to fear. It goes from, when it's time to make a decision in their business, it goes from taking days to a few minutes. That's how self-recognition, self-trust increases as you do the identity work of becoming an entrepreneur and using your voice online, So yeah, I could share more, but I want to share this. Number one, because it's really cool to gather data for your own business. And because you're a woman entrepreneur, I wanted to show you that you're not probably not the only one to feel that way. And then, so I'm going to invite you to get your visibility gap assessment, and you'll see that there is a section for offer and sales, and literally you check box. Okay, there is nothing else to do. There is no words to write. From the lead generation perspective, there is also an assessment, and then from a visibility infrastructure, there is another kind of broad assessment, and from that you'll have a sense, of what you feel strong on. I did a post today and I was saying, like, maybe you've been moving, doing the thing, posting, selling, delivering the services. You just want to make sure that you're not building on sand, right? So this is a little assessment. We do it twice a year with my clients, and it's a good way to see how you're moving the needle, because in business you don't build everything at the same time, right? You have season for this, season for that. So that's why this assessment will help you. I want to finish with this, because if that's something that you hear yourself say, and the self-assessment going to help you demystify it, maybe it's an actual thing, maybe it's just you thinking the thing, right? It's two different things. Is it a fact? Is it just you thinking that way, right? So the assessment's going to help you kind of clarify this. But there is a lot of women who come to me and just say, I just need more leads, more clients, right? What they mean is that they have a leaking pipeline, but they don't have a way to know it, to track it, right? So this is why this assessment is important, because it's going to show you that type of things. And then, it's when you need to take some time and you decide, maybe quarter Q4 or Q2, I'm going to fix my pipeline, There is other commonality that I hear. I'm posting, but nothing is happening. So that's easy to say, right? When we look through this together, and then we start having a conversation around this, and I notice that most of the time you're using someone else's voice. And then, of course, your body doesn't feel safe, right? So you've been every day posting inspired by this person and trying to mirror that person. Like, depending, I don't say don't get inspired and, try something that you see with others. It's not about that. Of course, it's like when you learn how to bike, you have those two little wheels and the back until you remove them, right? And you fly on your own, or you bike on your own, right? But when you're using someone else's voice or someone else's strategy, chances are that you are cutting yourself from a feeling, aligned with what you're doing, thus the resistance to show up. And so it's a muscle to find the alignment, especially when you've been in the habit of, taking templates or, always following what others tell you, right? It's taking that risk to be self-expressed in your content, in the way you sell, all the things. Another thing that I hear a lot is, I don't have time for this right now. Okay, you're telling me you want to generate 10K, 20K a month consistently, and you don't have time for, I don't know, reach outs, for example. So this is a nervous system thing. When someone says this, is that usually it's fear, right? And their nervous system is at capacity. Boom. So she wants to move, but her body's like, no, I cannot take more. I cannot do more, right? So this is where it's not a calendar thing. It's not because it's too busy in a calendar. It might be, but it's really about the nervous system regulation. I see this through my research all the time. So it's pretty cool because those are things I teach and I know why and how it works, the nervous system regulation, the neuroscience, the way we talk, and the subconscious mind. But to see it through so many assessment survey in the last few years coming as a one thing, I want to bring that to you because I want you to see it for yourself, in yourself. Another thing that I hear a lot is, I've tried all the things and it doesn't work. That's another good indication, this one, that it's a generalization, and what it means is not that it didn't work, but it doesn't sound like you. It is not aligned to you. And this is another kind of way of showcasing that you are disconnected from your self-recognition. Who are you, right? Voila. So I just love this so much, and I'm excited for you if today I got you to think through how can I track, assess my people. It's more than your people. It's the traffic that comes into your ecosystem, and measuring regularly where people are at based on their advancement in your ecosystem. So if you don't have an ecosystem and you just wing it, it's going to be complicated to do it. If you need help to set up systems, I'm your girl. We can have a conversation, right? In the meantime, I want you start with the assessment. So the link is around this video, and you're going to hear about it. If you're not on my newsletter yet, let me know, because I will share more in my newsletter as well about this, your visibility gap assessment. And on that note, ask me anything if you're watching the replay. I am here to serve you when I do live like this. It's number one, it's to be able to talk to you, answer your questions, so that you can hear me talk. You can see how I hold myself. If you can imagine yourself working with me, as some of you are, who've been watching for so many years. I discovered again someone recently who told me, who just got into our Who the F You Are authority bundle, that she was, following what we do at Social Media Love Online for the last 15 years, right? So this is the core of my TEDx. There is always someone watching. Don't let your mind tell you otherwise. You just don't know who it is. So there is always someone. So you're talking to someone, right? So I will be more than happy to have a conversation with you to set up your processes. I do that with some of my clients as a private client. Now I'm speeding on my computer. And I also do that because I know another piece of data that people need to consume a minimum of 11 hours of your content on multiple platforms at different moments. So when I do conversation with you like this, I will be able to repurpose it everywhere, so that other women entrepreneurs who have at heart, becoming the woman of their dreams through their business, to serve their family, to serve themselves first, their family and their community. That's why I do what I do. I am on a mission to amplify women's voices, one post, one video, one belief at a time. And if this is you, I am so happy to have you here, and say hi in the comments, because there is nothing like seeing a comment and a hi. Okay? Ciao, ciao.